Thank you for viewing the Lowenstein Parent Network and Diversity Leadership Network's recreation of Dr. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech, as told through the voices and hearts of Lowenstein attorneys and business service group family members. It is our hope that Dr. King's words will inspire others to do all they are able to make these words become reality.
I have a dream, but Dr. King do ya.
5 score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadows we stand in today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope for millions of Negro slaves who had been seared into the flames of withering injustice.
It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free.
100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination.
100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity.
100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land.
And so we've come here today to dramatize this shameful condition. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the urgency of now.
This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling down or taking the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to arise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice.
Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children.
It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. The sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. And those who hope that the Negroes needed to blow off steam and will be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright days of justice emerges.
But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow creative protest to degenerate into physical violence.
Many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone.
We cannot turn back.
There are those who ask the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim to the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream.
I'm not unmindful that some of you come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive.
Let us not wallow in the valley of despair, I say to you today, my friends. And so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood.
I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state of sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice.
I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I have a dream today.
I have a dream that one day down in Atlanta, with its vicious racist, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys, little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys, with little white girls as sisters and brothers.
I have a dream today.
I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together.
This is our hope, and this is the faith that I go back to the South with.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to struggle together, to pray together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will one day be free.
And this will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring.
And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and from every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.